And they asked the question, should all further migration from mainly Muslim countries be stopped? And the results were astonishing. 71% of people in Poland said yes. 65% in Austria said yes. 53% in Germany said yes. 51% in Italy said yes. The United Kingdom was in the lower quartile at 47%. So that is public support across 10 major European countries, 55% of them saying they want all immigration from these countries stopped completely, which goes way further than anything that Donald Trump has suggested. And what I'm sensing is that people are saying, look, frankly, through irresponsibility, our politicians have caused much of this problem. Through weakness, we haven't dealt with issues. We haven't dealt with the growth of extremism because we've been too afraid to be called racist. And I think there is a problem here. I think the public are getting really pretty upset. And our first caller this evening to answer this question of whether we are united as a country in response to yesterday is Sanjay. Sanjay, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. You all right?
Well, I'm a little bit depressed by it all, aren't you?
Yeah, I am as well. I don't think we're united at all. To be honest with you, I think we're completely apart. And I like to divide it into three separate groups. First of all, you've got left-wingers who are completely in denial, who just keep shouting racism, bigotry, fascism to the people who want to talk facts. Now, the other group are the right wing. Now, I don't want to go as far as saying right wing. What I want to say is people who talk facts. Like, I'll give you an example, Tommy Robinson, just somebody who just talks facts for a second.
Well, Sanjay,
yeah.
I don't know whether you saw the clip of Tommy Robinson down on the embankment yesterday. Whether he was talking facts or not, he was shouting very loudly and getting extremely angry. I'm not actually sure that in terms of tone that was necessarily helpful when the bodies were still lying on the bridge.
Yeah, I sort of agree, but I think he was just more passionate than anything. Okay, so then you got the third group, which is the Muslims, which is in the middle. Now, I'm not blaming all Muslims, Nigel. All I'm saying is this. Look, a majority of Muslims are human beings. The problem is Islam. Now, all I want to say is this. I don't feel Muslims do enough to condemn it. And the reason I say that is I'm sitting there talking over the phone, oh, I don't agree with it, or notinmyname.com, all that nonsense is not enough. Because the same Muslims who go out and shout on the streets if a council refuses to build a mosque or something and they go shouting on the streets in a group of gang, where are those people when these sorts of things happen? I don't see it.
Well, Sanjay, I mean, surely the evidence is, the polling evidence is that whilst there, and we've seen this, going right back to the underground bombings in London, that there is a minority percentage of Muslims who appear to have some sympathy for this behaviour. A lot of it, I have to say, in response to what happened in Iraq and elsewhere. But the vast, vast, vast majority of British Muslims, many born, not all, but many born here, when they're asked this question, Sanjay, say that they do support the values of this country. Is it those people you're saying need to be more vociferous in speaking out against evil?
Yes, you're right. I do agree with that. Yes, they're the people. But at the same time, Nigel, I feel that the majority of Muslims are intolerant. And let me explain why. Because how many of these majority of Muslims will ever admit that Islam is an intolerant Arab idea?
Well, Sanjay, Sanjay, you've had your say. You've said some very strong things, and I'm going to appeal to practicing Muslims, please, to answer Sanjay's charge. Sanjay is saying that too many of you are actually deeply intolerant, and that those that aren't are not speaking out sufficiently. It's a very, very strong point of view. I wonder what Ibrahim in Slough makes of that. Ibrahim, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I'm not, just to start off with the point of I'm a Muslim.
Yep.
I'm not embarrassed by this cowardly person who's committed this crime in the name of Islam, because to me he's not a Muslim and he's not part of my circle, so to speak. So for
Ibrahim, I mean, I do hear this argument, but I mean, something over the last few decades seems to have happened within this religion, and there are people out there. You don't want to identify with them, and I get that, and I'm delighted that you say that, but they believe they are Muslims. How can you ask if we are united when you ran the most divisive campaign from Farage? Well, actually, sorry to disappoint you, but this specific issue of Islamic terrorism wasn't a major part of why we voted to leave the European Union. It was significant that Mrs. Merkel had opened the door irresponsibly, but I would say this was more about numbers and it was more about control. And a tweet here, I have no problem with Muslim immigration. All attacks in the UK were UK born and bred. Stop spreading hate, says Londoner, not in my name. Look, the point is this. We already have a problem in this country. Why on earth would we wish to add to it by allowing more people in who could do such things? And we've seen that. We've seen it in France. We've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in Belgium. I'm going to ask Sherry in Hampstead whether she thinks the nation is united and our political leaders are right, or whether perhaps, my view that actually we think our politicians aren't doing enough is the right one.
Good evening, Nigel. It's so lovely to talk to you. I think we are not together at all. We are a totally divided nation. Totally divided. I was absolutely disgusted to see on the news last night that deputy policeman saying that when somebody was dying on the street, that the main cause of the police was to look after the Muslim community. They do not assimilate with us at all. Queen's Park, where I live, there's 5 schools in a row. Everybody's walking down the road. You cannot see their faces. They have nothing in common with us. I grew up when we all went to Sunday school. We lived in a Christian country. We celebrated Christmas. Nobody has asked us if we wanted this to happen to our country. Not one of those politicians has asked me or my family if we wanted this. Our country has been given away, and it is disgusting that they have actually just given away our country without asking us.
Sherry, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right to say that all of this was done without anybody being asked. You are absolutely right to say that. And I saw last night.
I cannot believe what's happened.
I saw last night, Sherry, on the evening news, Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, being asked what he thought, and he condemned what had happened. But it was Blair and Mandelson, wasn't it, in 1997, who said later they were sending out search parties all over the world to get people from different countries to come to Britain because they wanted to rub the noses of the right in diversity. I would argue...
But they should be in prison. The 2 of them should have been in prison. I never slept last night for what happened in Ireland and somebody being made out to be something he wasn't. And I won't sleep tonight because the truth of the matter is, Nigel, we have no country left to save. Do
you actually think that it's too late, or do you think that we've got to try incredibly hard, given that we've got people of different religions here, given that we've got segregation in some of our towns and cities, and I do understand that, I've seen it firsthand. Surely, given where we are, I mean, like you, I'd like to hear an apology from people that have done this, but don't we have to try our damnedest to get people working and living together?
I was spat at in a sweet shop in Birmingham. My family, God is my witness, because I had a cross on. I was told to get out of my own country.
Right, Sherry.
I have dogs. I can't walk near mosques. We've had enough. The genuine British people have had enough. We are not, as Christians, Sikhs, Jews, anyone driving down the road killing everyone. Islam is not...
Sherry, I get your anger. I understand the frustration. I understand your criticism of much of what has been done, but I would argue incredibly strongly that we can't just give up. We can't just say, that's it. We're not going to get communities assimilating and working together. We've got to try our damnedest to. And very interested to hear what callers have got to say about what Sherry said in that call. I'm going to go to Ahmed in Cardiff. Ahmed, good evening. Are we divided?
Definitely we are divided. Let me just start by saying I'm an ex-Muslim. I was born in a moderate Islamic family.
Yes.
And the root here is not Muslims. Muslims are, as one of your ex-guests said, are like me and you, normal people. The problem is Islam itself. Islam traditionally in history is a very violent ideology. The problem we are making here is we are subconsciously not aware of law-abiding matters and our religious background, and this is where the mistakes happen. I was interested in one of your ex-speakers, what he said, the brainwashed people. Actually, the brainwashed people are what me and you call the good Muslims, the people who bomb ban, do all these atrocities are actually the people who are following the teaching of Islam. Let me just explain something to you. 99% of people have never read the Quran, don't understand it. In fact, more than 60% of Muslims are not Arabic speaking. There are verses in the Quran itself which say fight the non-believers. It does not say give them flowers, speak to them. It says fight the non-believers.
Ahmed, am I not right? I did ask an earlier caller this, but he clearly, he hadn't studied the Quran. Am I not right in saying that it's the latter parts of the Quran that contain this stuff?
Precisely. When Muhammad was in Mecca, he was a weak person. He did not have the power to influence anything. Eventually, when he moved to Medina, he managed to get whatever army he managed to do, and he started to conquer Arabia. And with that progress, he sort of invaded all of North Africa.
Yeah. Well, that is Ahmed. That is exactly my understanding of it. Quick question for you: does, in your opinion, Islam need its own reformation?
No, it needs eradication.
Eradication.
It's not flexible. Yeah, it's as long as here is my question to the politician: how many fatalities? I just need a number. How many fatalities need to happen before somebody face the truth and just say, right, okay, we need to face this cancer?
That is a absolutely, fascinating phone call. Very strong. I'm sure it's going to provoke an absolute tide of response. I'm going to go quickly to Joe in Croydon. Joe, we haven't got long before the news, but please make your point.
Okay, just on a few points that Ahmed said. All right, first of all, your question, are we united? No, we are very much divided. I do read the Quran regularly. I'm a practicing Muslim. I pray 5 times a day. I'd like Ahmed to maybe tweet you or message you and show me where does it say to take innocent life. Now, Islam does give you the right to defend yourself, like any religion would do. Now, what I would encourage non-Muslims to do is go to their local mosque. They're more than welcome to learn a bit about the religion, rather than just listening to people like Ahmed and other people that just jump on the bandwagon when it comes to, when obviously people are labelled Islamic terrorists. Go to your local mosque.
So, Joe, are you saying, in contrast to what Ahmed just said, who was a Muslim, who gave up the religion, are you saying to me that you go regularly and practice in your mosque and that it is a religion of peace?
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'd like anyone to
Joe, thank you. I'm sorry, I've run out of time. Hi, Nigel. Yes, there is division in our country. I'm non-religious and believe one good move is to ban the burqa, which isn't a religious garment. That comes from John. Sadiq Khan is in an excellent position to lead a march for peaceful Muslims. Why not? We need to see proof of the 99% who are peaceful. That comes from Audrey Young. 99% is a very high figure, Audrey. After the 7/7 bombings, there were suggestions that the minority that had some sympathy was bigger than 1%. By no means massive, but bigger than 1%. There is a division out there. Martin in Canary Wharf, what is your interpretation? Are we divided as a nation?
It depends, isn't it? I mean, I'm a little bit upset with you, to be honest.
Right.
Can't say so. You keep bringing the religion into it. I mean, what's the religion got to do with it?
No, my callers do, Martin. My callers do.
You
seem
to be a very smart man saying that the Quran, the later part, is quite violent.
Am I wrong?
Have you read the Quran? Have you read it?
Do you know what I've done? I've sat.
No, you are wrong, because you need to read it to understand it, and I know for sure you haven't read it.
I've sat down, Martin, with one of the leading Islamic scholars in the world, and I've asked him to explain to me. After decades of studying, I've asked him to explain to me why there is a problem, and there does appear to be, for some people, an interpretation that leads to bad things.
Can I ask you? You're a Christian, I presume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you aware that the Christianity, Judaism, and Islamic faith, they all pray to the same God? Are you aware of that?
I certainly am, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you were to go into the church and one caller you read someone's text saying that they should ban the burqa. You know that Mary is wearing a hijab.
Yes.
When you go into the church, you know that.
Yeah, but Martin, I've said this with the previous caller. We haven't really got time. Now, if you don't want to listen, I've got a problem. But we don't want to go too much into theology, all right? But the basic question, our leaders are saying we're united as a country, and events like yesterday make us all feel closer together. Is that right or isn't it?
No, we are united because we all have common sense and common ground. This horrific act that's done, people should not interpret it into a faith, because it's not. He killed innocent people.
I know that.
It could have been my family or your family.
Yeah, Martin, I completely.
He rammed the cars into people who he didn't even know.
And the point that gets made that often terrorism that takes place in the name of Islam kills more people from that religion than anybody else. I get it, Martin, I do. My final thought on all of this, it is perfectly clear from everything we've seen this evening that there are some big divisions that exist in this country within Islam. It is all about the Quran, the interpretation of it. I would have thought the healthiest thing would be if there was a big public debate and a lot more knowledge about this. But I also feel myself, and we've focused less on this, but I also feel myself there is actually a very real division between the politicians' approach to dealing with radicalisation in our schools, in our prison, within our country, what we do in terms of accepting migrants into Britain, and what the public want. And I think they want action.